Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a delight to have heard some of the passionate speeches last night at dinner from some of the investors and to hear directly from people who are really excited in investing and contributing to the continent. I want to first thank Adjei-Twum for the invitation and EBII for convening us. It is great to be outside of the bubbles of American politics and be able to talk about how we can help the people of Mother Africa. I get the distinct honor of being the first African-born to serve Congress in the history of America. And it is with that honor that I do both enjoy being a representative in the House of Representatives in Congress, but also being part of the vibrant diaspora community. This is a room that clearly understands the African continent has a young, vibrant population and significant economic potential. We, as members of the African diaspora, have an opportunity to act as a bridge between the countries we now call home and the countries of our origin. Diaspora play a role in the economic development of our homelands. African remittances, as many of you have heard, total about $44 billion annually, according to the latest metrics, a figure that in many countries equals or exceeds both foreign direct investment and aid. And I have to say, Jonathan, I don't know how you skipped sending remittance back, as you said, as you've been employed, because since I was 16 years old when I got my first job, my father forced me to send money back to Somalia. But our investments, I believe, go beyond just sending remittances. Diaspora involvement can be seen in increased trade and foreign and diaspora direct investments between our countries of origin and of destination. In many countries, diaspora engagement has spurred entrepreneurship, boosted investment confidence, and generally connected emerging economies of global markets. However, one of the barriers to investment that we as policymakers need to confront in our own countries is our own country's policies towards the continent. Too often, the United States and many European countries take a security-first approach to the region, which has proven to destabilizing in the Sahel region and the Horn of Africa. Obviously, the problem of extremist violence needs to be addressed to allow the continent to truly prosper. But so do the problems of governance and human rights. And our own relentless militarized approach to extremism problem have shown themselves to be deeply counterproductive. And we heard directly from some of the folks that spoke this morning. This is evidenced by the rash of coups in the Sahel over the last 2 years, and is evidenced by the increasingly brutal human rights violations in Cameroon, Nigeria, and Ethiopia. We must also face the persistent problem of over-compliance with sanctions and counterterrorism laws by the financing sector and many North America and European banks and businesses. This too is a policy problem, and we need to move away from the knee-jerk sanctions policies that have shown very little evidence of being effective and quite quite a lot of evidence of hurting ordinary people. So we need a new approach in terms of policy, one that centers the hopes and the dreams and economic potential of the people of Africa and treats them as partners in globalized economy and not exclusively as a security threat. And the African diaspora will continue to have a significant role to play. And we are uniquely positioned to be a bridge between the continent and foreign investment. I do see us as ambassadors. No matter what room we are in, we get to share the kind of potential that exists on the continent, because many of us have deep connections, whether we left as a child or came to the diaspora while seeking further education. It is my belief that with advocacy around policy work, that we can make a significant impact in changing the narrative in Africa. I once heard someone talk about a single narrative, and I think it was one of the panelists, the doctor, who was talking about this. No matter what TV you are watching, what sitcom you tune into, what movies you might enjoy, what articles you might read about Africa, every single image that is put in front of Western societies is one of dismay, is one of despair, and is one of need. Many of us who know the diverse colors and beauty of the continent get to have an opportunity to share that beauty and shift the narrative, or maybe dilute the narrative by creating new narratives about the continent. In my time in Congress for the last 3 years, I've gotten to visit about a third of African countries, and have had the opportunity to meet with over 15 heads of countries. In every single country that I've visited, there are more opportunities than challenges if we are willing to see them. And every single conversation I have had with heads of state, it is always centered around them asking for not handout, but for partnerships. And I will say that for us in diaspora, we get to be in rooms of influence, rooms of power. Look around this particular room. Many of us have connections in rooms where the UN is at. Many of us are at banks. We are talking to people who have influence. Many of us are in rooms with lawmakers. We do get the opportunity to talk about debt cancellation for some of those African countries so that they can seize the moment of opportunity and be free of the shackles of debt, as I have done for Somalia when we canceled its debt 2 years ago in the US. Many of us have an opportunity to lobby lawmakers around sanctions that are counterproductive and harmful to many of the people we are trying to help on the continent. And that is a conversation that you are able to have with folks. I think it is important for us to think about the kind of investments that will allow for Africa to prosper. And it has to be one that creates shared prosperity among the many. It should be one that creates empowerment for women, of racial and religious minorities, and creates genuine inclusion of all its people in decisions that are made in those particular communities. These types of investments, incidentally, are also more of a productive way to combat violence and extremism. They are also instinctively linked to better governance. I once heard a head of a country in Africa say, good governance is like the beating heart. If it's weak, you might not be able to do much. But if the heart stops beating, then the body is no longer functioning. When we create broad economic opportunity that is shared by all, we create more equitable societies. This is itself critical to a thriving and a democratic nation. Ultimately, both diaspora and non-diaspora citizenry alike must be in mutual collaboration and understanding for these investments to truly be exclusive and sustainable. We all have an opportunity to create a vibrant, prosperous African continent in the 21st century, and I hope we seize it. Thank you.